Tonight in Democracy 20, taking stock of mining challenges since 1994.
The mining industrial sector in general has had a major positive contribution towards the growth and development.
Growing concern about deadly illegal mining activities.
This type of gangsterism, these guys, if we work, they just come to us and rob us, Sometimes they used to make us work under the supervision of a gunman.
And looking back at how the National Union of Mine Workers found new ways to invest its capital. Well, good evening and hello and welcome to Democracy 20, your pre-election program in which we look back at the past 20 years of democracy in South Africa. Our topic today is mining in democratic South Africa. Now, the industry has over the years been the backbone of the country's economy. This has led to rapid growth in infrastructure, manufacturing and, of course, financial services. All of this was created through the sweat and hard work of many workers from all over Southern Africa. The exploitation of African workers was supported by apartheid legislation, but long before that, the 1913 Land Act forced many people to seek work in the mines. Let's now take a look at the successes of the mining industry and some of the challenges it has faced since 1994, especially in the embattled platinum belt of the Northwest.
Since the advent of democracy, the ANC-led government has prioritized the transformation of the mining industry. The National Union of Mine Workers championed the rights of previously disadvantaged workers. It also called for the implementation of the social labor plan and for corporate social investment. This trickled down to communities in the Platinum Belt. This settlement was an initiative between government and mining company Impala Platinum. Over 1,500 houses have been built here for mine workers. The Royal Bafokeng Nation have also benefited immensely from this boom. Infrastructure development is flourishing and business has grown by leaps and bounds.
The mining industrial sector in general has had a major positive contribution towards the growth and development of the economy of Rustenburg in many ways, in many respects. One, it is no secret that Rustenburg is dubbed the fastest growing city in South Africa or in the Sub-Sahara. And that is thanks to the mining sector in particular.
However, since the beginning of 2012, the sector has been hit hard by prolonged industrial action over better wages and living conditions. The beginning of 2012 changed the face of labor politics here in Rustenburg. On the 16th of August in the same year, 34 miners were killed during a confrontation with police at Ngani informal settlement near Marikana. 10 more people were killed in the preceding week. The events that unfolded pre and post Marikana are now a subject of a commission of inquiry. Nothing has changed in the Platinum Belt since then. Many live in squalor with no basic services such as water, roads, electricity and housing. According to the Benchmark Foundation, 27,000 workers employed by loanmen do not have a proper accommodation.
Kanti uba uyohlulakala umqeshi makanikeze enye ikhampani i-certificate ikwazi efunayo ukuba izasibhatala le mali.
Mine workers say they support the demand for a 12,500 rand a month after deductions. But not all the mine workers support the extended strike. They have already lost over 4 billion rand in earnings. Mining companies are now also considering closing some shafts permanently. A number of miners have been expelled from the AMCO union for their view on the strike.
You must understand, 2012 is striking, 2013 is strike, 2014 is strike.
What has taken place in the Platinum Belt in the past 2 years remains an area of concern for government. Whether these developments are a ticking time bomb remains a subject open for scrutiny. Selva Tatadi, SABC News, Rustenburg.
Now, just a quick reminder, as usual, we've been asking you at home to join in the conversation, participate in tonight's show. You can do that very simply by sending us emails this to elections@sabc.co.za, or you can send SMSs this to 33726. Remember to begin your message with the word vote, and every SMS will cost you R1.50. If you're social media savvy for tweets, use the hashtag SABC elections, and you can also find us on our Facebook page. That's SABC News Online. Do send us your comments. We'll try and use as many of them as possible as we have conversations with our guests on the program. So we carry on now. The increasing incidence of illegal mining is a major headache for various authorities, mine owners and the Department of Mineral Resources, the police, health and emergency services among the organizations concerned about this problem.
Illegal mining, a phenomenon in various provinces. From the Free State to the Highveld, Zamazamas, as the illegal miners are called, go underground in disused mine shafts in search of minerals. This is a high-risk activity for them. As there is no proper ventilation, they face a health risk. There are also major safety concerns due to the absence of maintenance in the disused shafts and tunnels. The Revenue Service is also concerned as the country is losing an estimated 6 billion rands a year in revenue due to these illegal activities.
We'd be dealing with about 6,000 people who are underground doing illegal mining, and also surface-wise, there might be about 8,000. So it's conservative figures. So it's quite clear that it's huge and it's big. And we feel that we need to act with speed.
There are said to be over 300 interlinked passages and tunnels in Gauteng's disused mines alone. Some illegal miners are said to remain underground for weeks on end. Food and liquids are apparently smuggled to them by fellow Zamazamas. Since January, over 20 Zamazamas have died and hundreds have been arrested. Earlier this year, a large number of illegal miners barricaded themselves underground in a standoff with the authorities. They eventually surfaced after threats to reseal the disused shaft.
We as a responsible mine have to make a decision here to act in a good, reasonable measures to make sure that we don't injure or harm or fatally kill any further innocent people, or let alone illegal miners go use this entry point as an entry back into that basin. So it's in everyone's best interest to make sure that those holings get sealed.
The underground mining world has rules of its own. It's a battle for territory ruled by fear.
Just type of gangsterism, these guys, if we work, they just come to us and just rob us, Sometimes they used to make us work under the supervision of a gunman.
But for the Zamazamas, this is the only way they have to make ends meet.
Something like 1,500, 2,000, just to survive. Not to say we get plenty money now.
Meanwhile, the relevant authorities are trying to find a solution to the problem.
Well, your tweets and your messages over Facebook have been coming through. Let's take a quick look at some of those. This one from Victor Monyanya saying, well, SA government have no plans on solving mine problems, and this problem is costing the country big time. Let's take a quick look at another one. This one from, I think it's GQZA. He says, well, mining companies misrepresenting their intentions, striking miners as well as politics. Interesting comments indeed. But anyway, do keep on sending them in. Remember, if you're sending us tweets, hashtag SABC elections, find us on SABC News Online. That's our Facebook page, and elections@sabc.co.za. Stay tuned. When you come back, we speak to our first guest of the evening. Democracy20 continues after this short break.
When a man's an empty kettle, he should be on his mettle, and yet I'm torn apart. Just because I'm presuming that I could be kinda human if I only had a heart. I'd be friends with the sparrows and the boy who shoots the arrows if I only had a heart.
I'm Dr. Cyril Mutau. Watch Health Talk every Saturday on SABC News as we unpack gripping health issues on the African continent and beyond. That's every Saturday at 9 a.m. on DSTV channel 404. Health Talk, making you aware.
Welcome back. You're watching Democracy20, a special pre-election show in which we celebrate 20 years of democracy in South Africa. Our topic tonight is mining in the country, and we now welcome a seasoned trade unionist and former senior commissioner at the CCMA, Gavin Hartford. He is now the CEO of ESOP Shop, which assists clients with the design and establishment of employee ownership solutions in multi-stakeholder environments. Good evening, Gavin. Welcome to Democracy20.
Good evening.
Mining in South Africa, before we speak of it in post-apartheid South Africa, the past 20 years, it's a proud history of mining. Hundreds of years before, at one stage, we were the biggest miner in the world.
Indeed we were. And in fact, I think we can confidently say that the entire financial services industry, the retail industry, the city of Johannesburg, the cities of Welkom, Rustenburg, etc., were built on the back of mining. So mining isn't just solely about extracting a resource from the ground. It's also about the downstream impact of that extraction process on the manufacturing industry, on the cities and towns of South Africa.
Now, in the past 20 years of democracy, as we celebrate it, and especially in this program, what have we seen from the past? I mean, previously to post-apartheid South Africa. What has happened within our mines?
Well, I think the thing that viewers should understand about the mining industry is that it really is an industry which has built on strong institutions over a long period of 150 years. There's a custom and practice in the way mining is done in South Africa, and that has remained largely unaltered post-democracy in 1994. And that includes the way in which the shift pattern works, the way in which the migrant labor system works, the way in which companies contribute to social and labor plans in the local mining areas. That has largely stayed in place throughout the history of mining.
Without a doubt, though, what we've seen over the past couple of years is the unrest within the mining sector itself. It is pretty disturbing. I mean, you look at what's happening, and particularly we spoke about that important platinum belt.
Yes, I think platinum is critical. I think what we need to understand is whilst gold is a very mature industry right at the end of its life, platinum has up to 80 years of life in front of it. So it is a very important industry for South Africa, and what unfolded in 2012, starting in January, with the strikes at Impala Platts that later rolled out over the entire platinum belt and into gold and other commodity sectors, was effectively the dislodging of the institutional pattern that the mining companies and the unions had enjoyed for probably 20 years, or going back basically to the 1987-89 strike. So they had a long period of industrial relations stability, which worked well. But in 2012, it was shown that these institutions were not capable of capturing the imagination of ordinary workers, and ordinary workers walked off the job.
And basically all they wanted, when you think of it realistically, honest wages to earn an honest living, so to speak, in terms of wages. And it's a thin line with what they're asking for. For example, in the past year leading up to the election year, as we are now, some unions saying 12,500 rand, this is what an honest living is, whereas government says minimum wage should be this much. It's a thin line on giving everyone what they want and losing business, as it were.
That's exactly it, Thabiso. I mean, the big tragedy in South Africa is that on the one hand you have companies saying, as Anglo-Plat said recently, implemented a force majeure today, threatening to close what they call our marginal shafts. And on the other hand, you have workers who are looking for 12,500 rand. It's regarded as unaffordable for the industry. Mm-hmm. But to date, South Africans have not built within this industry sufficient trust and understanding for the unions to really know what is the economic circumstances to create long-term sustainable mining from a company point of view, and for the companies to know what is a real living wage that is sustainable for the industry going forward. I think what you've got is positions developing on standpoints which are not understood by both parties in this dispute.
I guess then the question then comes in, maybe has the mining industry had it good, so to speak, over the past 20 years or so, that it never came to pass that maybe we should keep up with the wages, so to speak. I mean, when you think of it, if this was planned a couple of years ago, or when post 1994, we shouldn't be having these problems if workers were.
Well, I think if both employers and unions have been much more proactive in looking at what were the social and economic conditions under which employees were living over the last 20 years. I'm not to say that things weren't done. Things were done. But I don't believe enough was done in respect of changing the quality of working life of ordinary mine workers on the ground. And I think what we're seeing in the development of the industrial action this year in 2013 has been an outright rejection of those standards and an inability, and this is the sad part, is an inability of the mining houses together with the organised labour to come together and say, well, what is the future we need to create together? Because however the strike pans out, and provided the parties can come together with a greater understanding of one another, I think we would be at least making some progress. Elections coming up 7th of May. Do we foresee major changes, if any, and as far as the election is concerned, or the outcome after the elections, rather? Well, I think certainly for the employees on the Platinum Belt, they think the election's already happening. They've kind of elected to walk with their feet. And to some extent, there's a big fear that the strike, if we can't find a resolution, will go beyond the elections, which will naturally impact on voting patterns, particularly in the Rustenburg Belt. And worst of all, the country can't afford this, to be honest. Well, I think that's the main thing. I don't think the country can afford it. I don't think it's great for investors. It's certainly not great for mine workers. It's certainly not great for mine owners. At the moment, the share prices are holding up. The commodity is still being traded. There's still supplies on the global market. Everything looks okay. But don't let that fool you, because those stocks are going to come to dry out, and the situation is getting pretty desperate out there. Gavin, before we continue, let's take a quick look at some of the tweets that have been coming in from the viewers at home. Let's take a quick look. These are coming, as we said, asking you to send us through your messages. One says, why can't you close those old mines? Because people are dying there. Basically, Gavin, speaking on the fact that these zama-zamas, so to speak, where people go in, look for the scraps or whatever's left over in the mines to make a living. Well, I mean, I think this is a deep problem, particularly in the gold sector, where zama-zamas are going in. But the problem starts right from the granting of a license, in fact, because that license should include cleaning up afterwards, closing down these shafts, not allowing access. There's right across those areas, people are getting access to these mines, and they're putting their lives at risk, and they're putting the country at risk as a result. Let's take a quick look at another one, Gavin, as I said, before you go over to the break. This one coming through, let's see it as you see it, comes from, I think it's Future Bit. He says there is no one person or government that own the land. It belongs to the people, and the people are suffering. Oh, here it is on my right-hand side. Well, I guess that's probably, the one opinion of a lot of people, that it is, after all, South Africans' land, and they should have rights to own, to mine it, basically. Well, I think the unique thing about resources is it does belong to the people. And I think the Mineral Resources Development Act recognises that it does belong to the people. And the contest we're facing, whether you call for nationalisation or whether you don't, is about how do we share this resource appropriately amongst investors, amongst communities, amongst employees. How do we use this resource to build our economy? In particular, how do we use it to build the manufacturing sector, which is really struggling at the moment, And I don't think we have resolved that question at all.
One more tweet. I think we've got one more, Gavin. They're coming in thick and fast. They're seeing you here, so I think everyone's throwing these things at you. Let's take a quick look at our final tweet for the evening before we say goodnight to Gavin. This one saying, one way to curb illegal mining is to give people mining rights not based on their political relation. Example, the state president's son, Kulubuse, and as well as Aurora. And there's one more, this one from Kagiso, this one coming from Kaver. He says, Councillor came to me and told me I must vote. I told him I'm only 16. He said, doesn't matter. I don't think this one basically speaks to the mining issue. Oh, here's one about mining. Levi Singh says, miners in South Africa 13 times more likely to die from TB than they are from mining accidents. Is that true? How true is that?
Well, there is a strong association between mining and tuberculosis, and there are cases that are pending on that. I don't really want to comment on that at this stage. But yes, in terms of deaths on mines, I think we have improved over the years, but I think we've got a long way to go to create a 100% safe, zero harm environment for mine workers.
Gavin Hartford, thank you very much for joining us right here on Democracy20. Gavin Hartford is former Senior Commissioner of the CCMA and is currently CEO of the ISOP shop. Now, Democracy20 takes a quick break. Don't go away. When you come back, we've got something for you. What happened on this day 18 years ago?
The Swaziland Tourism Authority invited Kaleidoscope on a media tour of what has become known as the Little Switzerland of Africa, the Kingdom of Swaziland. The Mantanga Waterfall is one of Swaziland's best known and most accessible waterfalls, as it can be seen within 50 meters.
That's Kaleidoscope, Sundays 5:30 p.m. on SABC News.
Coming up this week,
we talk about Nigeria's social network, UCOS. And discuss the school's connectivity program in depth. All this and more technology and social media news.
Join Siphumelele Zondi on Network every Sunday at 19:30 CAT.
Welcome back. You're still watching Democracy20. Now, on this day 18 years ago, opposing ideologies came together in a rather surprising fashion. The National Union of Mine Workers decided to invest its capital in the Johannesburg Stock Exchange. This is how SABC News reported on the matter. This on the 2nd of April, 1996. Our reporter at the time was none other than Snooki Zakalala.
For the first time in the history of the South African economy, a trade union movement placed its shares on the stock market. NUM's investment arm, the Mine Investment Company, the Chan Group of Companies, and the Standard Corporate Merchant Bank listed the Matomo Group Limited. The Matomo Group Limited is a retail group which has 85 stores located in the mines, in mining hostels, industrial complexes, and power stations. The group placed 10 million shares at R2.50 per share to raise 25 million rands. The listing was successful, pushing the price from R2.50 to R3 per share.
I think it is a historical moment for the Mine Workers Investment Company. We're only operating 6 months. As someone said, we've initially protested here, then we came to be educated about the market, and now we're on the market.
The union says it is one way of creating wealth which will benefit millions of mine workers. NUM says through its investment company, which was listed today, they'll be able to raise finance for their educational and agricultural projects. This is Snugi Zikalala reporting for SABC TV News in Johannesburg.
Oh, I'm loving these 20-year shows. We've come to the end of the show, but before I go, let me give you one more tweet. This one coming from Lita Matunga. And Lita says, why are the responsible departments not acting? Because it's their failure. This obviously speaking to our topic for today, which is mining in democratic South Africa. Anyway, that's the end of the show. Catch us again tomorrow evening, same time, same place. In fact, depending on tomorrow's cricket, we might be back at 6:30 right on SABC3, but we'll definitely be on DSTV, SABC News Channel 404. And then until then, you take care. The English news continues at around 1900, 7 o'clock South African time. Cheers.